Hey everybody, welcome to the next Q&A. Sorry about the lighting in this particular room. It's still kind of too hot outside to do this out on my back deck. But anyway, so my face is not normally this red. It's just the effect of the lighting. So from last time, I have got a couple of kind of leftover question and a comment. First, Kathy Jenner, she wanted to know kind of an assessment of my gear that worked this last time and what didn't, and what I would change if the next time I go out on the trail. And if you go back to my pre-departure video that I did prior to heading out this spring, the only thing that I added after that video was a pair of kind of Under Armour flip-flops, okay, and a little padded. I went with the with the tongue here because the last ones I used that were kind of slip-ins, and my thought was, hey, have socks on, that'd be nice. They are always falling off of me, so I went with these thinking I could keep them on better. Not necessarily the case, and you know what? I find myself carrying them a lot, not using them that much. I would take them off my pack, throw them next to my tent, in case I had to get up in the middle of the night. But being an old guy and needing to go to the bathroom a lot, one of the advantages of a tent is that you can pee in a bottle. So I have a Nalgene, one of those collapsible canteens that's super lightweight, and it is dedicated for one thing, and that is filling it up during the night. So I am going to probably not take those again. I'm like Darwin on the trail. He's kind of abandoning his trail shoes. I'm going to do the same thing. I just don't see any utility in them, to be honest with you. By the time I get into camp, get stuff done, I'm going to bed. I'm not walking around trying to relax with camp shoes on. It's not worth it. They're 10 and a quarter ounces. Not much, but all that stuff adds up, so I'm abandoning them. The other thing, I came back and I did a mod on my pack, my ULA Catalyst. I talked to Chris out there maybe about putting some of the S-straps on. He taught me out of S-straps and said to go with longer J-straps, and so I sent them off to him and he remodded that, and I have yet to go out and try that. I'm planning on doing a little. I got the Florida trails only 13 miles north of me, and so I may jump up and do a little bit of a Florida trail hiking there through the Eglin Air Force Base range. It's a really nice trail through there, and may go out for a couple of days and check out the pack and see how that's working for me. Other than that, everything else is dialed in and working real well for me. So on our discussion about being careful about getting off the trail and getting disoriented and getting lost while you're out doing your business. Tony Pierce had a comment, and I'm making an assumption, Tony. I think you told me at one time you were a thru hiker. Your photograph for your profile picture has you on the sign at Katahdin, so I'm going to make that assumption that you've thru hiked. He said, I had one experience at night on the AT, and I won't forget. We pulled into an area where we decided to camp. It was almost dark. And when we finished eating and setting up our tents, I went off to hang the bear bag in the dark. After hanging the bags, I turned around to hike back and could not find our tents. Even though I was wearing my headlamp, finally I yelled out for my companion back at the tents to turn on her headlamp, and luckily I was able to spot the light and make my way back. Surprised me how easily it is to get turned around in the woods at night, and I asked his permission to share that with you all, because it is. And one of the things that I learned about bear bagging, okay, the food bagging, is throw that rope and get it hung up before it ever gets dark. It is hard to do that at nighttime. It takes a lot longer. So I always try to avoid trying to throw that rope when it's dark outside. All right, Todd, he asked, he said, now talking about your experience, basically, with shelters and, outhouses of the shelters, he says, from my limited experience in New England and Virginia, I personally find them pretty nasty and wonder how you and others deal with sitting on the seats when they are less clean. It really depends. the trail clubs they really try and do a pretty good job of keeping up on that there, and you can tell the trail clubs that are pretty active and those that aren't. For the most part, there were some privies that were pretty nasty, but for the most part, they really try and keep up with them. You know, I always carried some sort of a wet wipe, wet ones, you know, Continental, those you know, toilet wipes, something's got some moisture on it. It's not beyond me to take one of those and wipe it a little bit before I sit down. You know, as far as trying to hover over it or something like that, the way those things are designed, it's almost impossible. You pretty much have to sit down on most of them to do your business, because if you try and hover, you're gonna miss. It's just it's not like a toilet. Okay, it's when it's a toilet lid on a box. Sometimes ergonomically that just does not work very well. So. Now, as far as he asked about, you know, the unsanitary outhouses and whether they may have contributed to the virus outbreaks in Virginia, you know, E. coli will come from that. Norovirus, though, that's going to come from more like the rodents and the rodent droppings and things, which is why when you know, one of the easiest ways to get norovirus is to go into the shelter, grab the journal, and start looking at it. Because everybody else is doing that, and that's where all the germs get passed around, believe it or not. So if you really don't want to get a virus, you know, use a little hand sanitizer. Be really careful when you're going through the journal and the pens you're touching that are there, and then make sure you don't do anything until you hand sanitize afterwards. And you know, it's good for bacteria. I don't know about viruses, but gotta be careful. There are times when I looked at the shelter journal and I thought to myself, "There's no way I'm touching that. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to put an entry in it tonight." It's just it was you could just tell, because you could tell that, you know, critters have been chewing on the pages to use it for nesting material, and you just didn't want to have to deal with it. So, all right, and let's see. Oh, now he does ask about lightweight versus the ultralight also. And so did you find there to be a case for a majority of the hikers that you encountered, or were the majority all running around with the ultralight, you know, packs? Last year, the ultralight people were using some hyperlight packs, some Exos, like 48-liter packs that they were using. Most of them were going stoveless, hitting the shelters a lot, only had the one pair of clothes that they were wearing, and they weren't washing them very often. Oh man. You didn't see a whole lot of the Z-Packs packs last year. This year, basically out of Harper's Ferry, with the group of people that were starting there, I saw a lot of Z-Pack stuff, a lot more tents than I saw last year. You know, a lot more of the duplexes, and a lot more of the arc halls, and a few arc blasts, but a lot of arc halls out there. So still a lot of Ospreys. Okay, there's still the Osprey probably still is the prime pack, but I saw more ultralight stuff this year in the 400 miles of the hike with the flip flopper starting out of Harper's Ferry. So I think it's definitely the lighter packs are definitely catching on. All right, Dale Chafee asks, as far as food goes, what snacks that I really get sick of? Pepperoni. Okay, good timing on a phone call coming in. At least I was able to finish my sentence. Yeah, pepperoni. I got kind of tired of it. Started eating more Genoa salami, the hard salamis. In its place, or even some summer sausage was good, but a little more tuna fish this time than I did last year. I started using the tuna salad version that's got a little bit of the mayo in it, and for my protein, and like that a lot. So yeah, the pepperoni, especially at lunchtime. I tried some of those pepperoni sticks. Very convenient, nice. They're all individually packaged. But yeah, I got sick of the pepperoni more than anything, and I've never really been a big peanut butter fan. I've got to admit, and if I do eat the peanut butter, it's got to be the version that's got the honey that's added with it. So, all right, Tim Martin he's from the UK. He's been following me for a while, and he says one thing I get overwhelmed with as I'm so far away in the UK is the thought of trying to plan so far ahead of time, as most people seem to do. I see the sense of planning food and first resupplies to meals and armed with gut hooks and with the AWOLs. Should I really be, would I really be wrong in just winging it with minimal planning? No, actually not really. You'll find that no matter how detailed of a plan you get, it's going to go out the window pretty fast. What do they say? In the military, no battle plan survives the first contact with the enemy, because after that it all changes. Well, the enemy is the trail, the weather, other people, but you need to have at least, in the military we call it commander's intent, and that's why the Germans implemented that in World War II, and that was a very good, and we adopted it basically, and that is instead of having super command and control, you give your commander's intent. Okay, we've got to go take this bridge, and you let the local platoon leaders figure out how to do that, and they go do it. Because if in the process as command and control breaks down, at least the guys fighting the battle know, okay, we need to get this bridge so we can get to this point by this time. And so if they have no more contact with their command and control, they know what their objective is, and they'll execute it. And that's kind of the way it is with hiking. What is your intent? Well, your intent is to get the whole trail hiked. Okay, you're gonna need to know some things. Some of those things you need to know is gut hooks available to you, the AWOL guides available to you. In there are resources and trail angels to call. Franklin, for example, I'll give you a little hint here. How do you get into Franklin? Well, we end up calling Hampton Inn, and they're like, "Oh, we've got a list of trail angels. Can you get an email?" They emailed us a list of trail angels that will come out and pick you up. And some of them, they don't ask for anything, but it's polite to at least give them some money for gasoline, and okay, well that's not an AWOL guide, but as you talk to people, you learn things. There's some initial things you kind of need to know when you get started, like you better send some food you better send a drop box to Neil's Gap. Grocery shopping is great in Hiawassee. It's great in Franklin. It's terrible at the NOC. You better send a box to the NOC. There is a resupply opportunity at Fontana Dam if you're there at the right time of year, if they have this general store opened, if they've got it resupplied, and you're going to pay a lot of money for it. So they have a post office there. Why don't you go spend a night at the lodge, or even at the Hilton there, the Fontana Hilton, the really great shelter. Pick up a resupply box as you head into the Smokies. If you're a fast hiker, you can get all the way through the Smokies. But if you're not like me, you're going to go into Gatlinburg. Great resupply in Gatlinburg, and so you're gonna, and so when you pick up some general ideas, at least, and through, I didn't do another resupply box until I had to get them occasionally because of my medications, but I didn't have to get one at Woods Hole, but I got one. Hostile, because that's only half a day's hike into Parisburg. But you're going to do maybe some equipment swap out. You're going to get rid of your winter gear at Parisburg, okay? And then you're going to be going into Waynesboro, and so you'll learn, hey, there's a great outfitter there in Waynesboro, and you're going to get resupplied in Waynesboro, but you're going to find out, but at Harper's Ferry, there's no way to get food. So you're going to have to send a box to the Conservancy, a resupply box. So those are little things that you learn. And if you're using trail runners, every 500 miles, you're going to have to swap them out. You're using a good pair of boots, you maybe go 1,000. Some trail runners want to last 150 miles. I saw them falling apart pretty early, and there's a lot of people disappointed. So there's some of those things that Do you wing it? Yeah, you can wing it. But you kind of also need to have some planning ahead on, where are you going to get your winter gear back when you get up to New England? Okay, probably sometime before you hit the whites, you probably want to get some of your winter gear back. Those big logistical things you kind of want to have a handle on, but the rest of it you can just kind of wing it as you go, because I had to adjust my plan and my resupplies because I wasn't getting the 15 miles a day. Okay, there are people watching this video right now that are laughing, going, "Only 15 miles a day, and he couldn't do that? What a loser, what a slacker!" Because they're doing 30. Okay, so what I would do for planning what they're doing are totally different, and what happens to those guys? And most of them probably didn't plan to do 30. They probably planned to do 20, 25s, but now they're doing 30s, and so things adjust and change for them. So yeah, being overseas, have some basic ideas of those initial resupplies and what you want to have sent, but don't do the boxes up ahead of time for Harper's Ferry and stuff like that, because whatever you put in there for food you can tell your family to send, you're going to go, no way I'm gonna want this stuff. Even for me, even at the NOC, I gave a bunch of my trail mix away because I didn't even want it. I didn't. My body didn't want it. My taste buds didn't want it. And a lot of people were grateful to get it. I gave it away. So and then that was, I thought for sure by then it would be a safe bet to prepackage my food that I need. And the beauty is, you go to Hiawassee and you get a trip. The hostel there will take you down to Ingalls, and guess what? The post office is right next to it. So you could actually go there and do your resupply at Ingalls, and walk to the post office, put it in a box, and send it to Fontana, or to send it to send one to the NOC, send one to Fontana, of stuff that you're going to want to eat, versus trying to do it from overseas way ahead of time. So the only thing is, maybe Neil's Gap, since it's only 35 miles, you might want to have that one prepped ahead of time before you get to the States. But after that, it's really easy to adapt, improvise, and overcome, as we say in the military. Okay, sorry for the long answer on that one, Tim. All right, let's see. David Davis asks, planning on hammocking on my through hike, and interested in your reasons for switching to a tent. So it was a matter of desperation. My pack was way too heavy. I had to do something. I walked into Mountain Crossings there at Neil's Gap to get some suggestions. The guy walked me through, okay, well, how much does your hammock weigh? And I was really proud of how much it didn't weigh. And how much does your tarp weigh? And I was really proud of how much it didn't weigh. And how much does your underquilt weigh? And I was pretty much of how much it didn't weigh. But then we added all that up, and he went, okay, well, you can get this big Agnes and save like 2 pounds. And at the time, I was pretty desperate to drop weight. Plus, I was micro packing my pack every day because there wasn't enough cubic inches for having that underquilt, that nice 20-degree underquilt that I had, which was a full quilt. It just, it packed down, but it was still taking up space, and I was struggling with that. So that was one of the reasons that I stopped hammocking. Then it was kind of the win to get it back, to try it again, and so I did get it back in Waynesboro, and was going to finish going the rest of the way with the hammock, but then I ended up having some medical issues, and I had to get off. Either option works. It's just, for me, I stopped hammocking because of desperation, but I did eventually get back to it, and I do like the hammock. One of the advantages that I really do prefer with a tent is that you can strip down and give yourself a sponge bath with a wet wipe, kind of get cleaned off, get the nasties off. And you can do that a lot easier than you can do under a tarp and a hammock, where people are going to watch you do that. So that's an advantage, having that little bit of privacy. So all right, let's see. Chris from Florida, he asks, along with Sydney Kenyon, about hiking the approach trail, and how do you get to Springer. In the AWOL guide, there's actually a section in there at the beginning that says how to get to Springer. Okay, and it gives you a bunch of options. Basically, there's a couple of shuttle drivers, and there's a hostel that's there that there's about a mile and a half north of Springer. There is a Forest Service road and a parking lot. Okay, and you can get dropped off there. So if you want to, you can have the shuttle driver take you down to Amicalola Falls, sign in, get your picture taken at the arch, then have them run you up to the parking lot there, and then you just hike south, go Sobo to the summit, get your pictures taken with a plaque, come back down the parking lot, head north again. If you're lucky enough to have a family member dropping you off, leave your pack. Some people really get wrapped up into I'm going to carry this pack the whole way across, past every blaze, and pretty soon you go, you know what, I'm going to slack pack this section, and it's not quite such a big deal that you got your pack with you. But there are some that want to do it the whole way, make sure they have a pack on for every step, and that's okay. Hike your own hike. But yeah, you can easily get down there, get signed in. And then catch a ride back up. Do you know that you can park your car in a special parking lot at Amicalola Falls and leave it until you pick it up after you get to Katahdin and back? Okay, they actually have that availability there where you can actually leave your car there the whole time you're hiking the trails. So you got to come back and get it. Little things that I didn't know that at the time I was planning on it. All right. From Graham McCord, does anyone know how long it will? Okay, so Graham McCord is interested in that in the BRS 3000T, that little stove that I have that I kind of did my review on. And I said I would ask out there if any of you subscribers have actually done a full burn test on it, where you put a full canister on, you light it, and you let it go and see what's the duration of burn. I know what I've done planning wise, and it works out pretty well, is you can, with a small bottle, that's the the 3.9 ounce one, 110 grams, that'll bring 2 cups of water to boil about 10 times. But I don't know about as far as its maximum burn time. So pitch in there and send me an answer if any of you have done that and know. All right, let me go answer the phone. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. It's real life. Let's see. Kira Young asks what time of year I'm going to start hiking next year. Right now I'm going back and forth between April and May. I like hiking in the colder weather. I think either one of those options is going to put me in trouble with the black fly in May. Don't know. Probably leaning towards the 1st of May, starting in New York and heading north. So we'll see how that works out. So, all right. Now Fred McClure, kind of getting back, and I meant to do this with the privies at the shelter question, but he said that I shouldn't. You shouldn't leave your stuff next to the trail when you're doing your business. Go ahead and take it with you. And the reason I mention that is because if you get lost in the woods, you're going to want to have your stuff. It'll help you survive. Plus, it's not pilferable when it's there. Now, I don't think most people will do any. Most of the people who are hiking and through hiking are not going to bother your stuff. There are people that live on the trail. Okay, I will call them the modern day hobo. The hobos are the guys that rode the trail lines and would find ways to get off and get into town, beg for food and things, and then to get back on the trains. And there's kind of a trail hobo community out there. There are people that kind of live on the trail, and you'll come across them. Most of them are kind of harmless, but every now and then they're a little scary. That's why I tell you, if you're a female hiker hiking solo, and people ask you, if you're hiking solo, the answer is always no. I'm not hiking solo. And you have some trail names as the people that are around you, and you mention they happen to be, just a little bit behind you. Never say they're ahead of you, because they could have been there, stalking the situation. Now they know you're lying, but they don't know what's coming behind you. So, so I, and so his question is, so when you get to if you get to a shelter and the water's far away from it, what do you do? Do you hide your pack? What do you do with it? Well, first of all, my camera and my wallet go with me. That's your lifeline. That's your call for help. That's your money, your ability to recover from anything that happens. So those go with me always when I leave camp. Okay, and so it's usually okay if you're at a shelter, just leave your stuff there. There's people around. Somebody's not gonna let another person get away with going through your pack. Okay, they're going to get run off. If you're there by yourself, it might be a different story once you get there. I've been known to set up my tent first and get my stuff kind of situated, and then go get water. By then, somebody usually shows up. There was an instance just before we descended into this year into Fayetteville, Pennsylvania, where I got to the shelter. I was so thirsty, I was dying, and the water was 0.4 down the hill. And I just kind of threw my pack in the shelter on the sleeping board, sleeping platform there, without thinking. Grabbed my bottle and started heading down the trail. And as I was coming up, there was a guy, and nobody had been there at the time. There was a guy. He was coming back down, and he said, "Hey, I hung up your pack so the rodents wouldn't get it." And I thought, "Oh, thank you," because I'd forgotten to do that. Most of the time, if you're gonna leave. If nobody's there, the rodents are going to go after your pack if you leave it sitting around. So normally there's pegs in the shelter where you can hang stuff. There's the little ropes with a toggle on the end of it that you can kind of hook it through your loop on your pack and kind of hang it up. And that's what I would do. So take your two most valuable things with you, your phone and your wallet, and hang up your pack at the shelter. On the pegs, on the little toggles on the strings, just to keep the rodents out of it. And once again, most people are not going to bother it. Just if you happen to have, I call them one of the trail hobos that are out there. Okay. All right. I have not gotten all the way through this yet, but Loner, okay, and his YouTube channel is I think Loner AT 2000 or maybe Loner 2012 AT. Okay, Jeffrey Gray. He's kind of the father of doing the YouTube trail videos. Okay, he bounced ahead his laptop and would take the card out of his camera and do the videos. And I didn't get to watch him in real time. It was a couple years after he hiked that I found his channel. And anyway, he has a book, Painted Blazes, okay, and you can get this on Amazon. It's not very expensive, and I've really been enjoying reading it. It's basically his story as he's gone through, went through the trail, and it's kind of fun because a lot of the stuff you kind of have those shared experiences, and it's bringing back a lot of memories for me. He's got hiker tips all over this, and one that I just noticed and read that I meant to bring up when we were talking about being from overseas and trying to do the planning. One thing I wanted to add for you, Tim, from the UK, is in the United States, if you use priority mail, okay, and send a package, and when you go to the post office, let's say you don't really want it yet, and so you can bounce. It's called bouncing. You can bounce it ahead to the next post office or to another post office, and as long as you haven't opened it up, you don't have to pay for any postage. Okay, they'll forward it for free. At Hiawassee, I bounced ahead my alcohol stove because I'd swapped out to a canister stove, and my ice cleats, the ice trekkers. Okay, and I decided that I sent them ahead to Fontana with the idea that when I got there, I'd make the decision whether I was going to need anything. When I got to Fontana, it's like, nope, the weather's good right now. The Smokies, there's no snow, no ice. I'm not going to carry these things all the way through the Smokies, so I basically bounced them back home. I forwarded them back home at no cost. So, something to think about with the how the American postal system works. So, and that's one of the hiker tips that's in in Jeffrey's book. So if you want a really good read, go out and get it. I think it's also an ebook out there too. Once again, it's if you haven't watched his through hike, it's phenomenal. I think I mentioned once before that he had his shoes had blown out, and he went into a Dollar General and bought a $12 pair of shoes, and he commented on the channel that I gave him too much credit because they were only $7. To be able to make it till he got to a place where he could get a pair of shoes. So highly recommend. And he's actually got some lost videos right now that he's putting on his channel from things that he's dug up that weren't part of his original hike that he's putting out there. So go out there and support another through hiker and take a look at his book, and it's a good read. Okay. All right, everybody. That's it for this week. Any questions for next time? Go ahead and put them in the comment section below, and we'll get to them. And in the meantime, I'm getting ready to sit down and do a video on leg 2 of my trip, which is from Neal's Gap to Hiawassee. All right. Talk to you later, everybody. Bye.